Shabbat tov.
Shabbat tov. Oh, wait. Shabbat tov.
Shabbat tov, Shabbat tov.
Shabbat tov. How are you?
I'm well, thank God. How about yourself?
Baruch Hashem.
When I got on at 9:35 or so, I was like, oh my gosh, did I miss it?
You did not.
Mary,
I haven't seen you in DAF before. Do you do it during the week?
No, I'm beginning to start, well, now that I've graduated YCT, I'm beginning to,
Yes, Mazel Tov. I saw. That's awesome.
I'm beginning to take on a piece of the when Dove is not available, I'm gonna
Oh, that's great.
so.
Very much needed. So I actually, during the week, I actually do the DAF with RJC.
Okay.
And I only do the DAF with HIR during, on Saturday night and on Sunday. So.
Okay.
Miriam, you didn't tell me this was a formal affair. I didn't put on a tie.
Right. So
I literally ran upstairs to, where I have davening in my backyard with the wraps. And so I literally ran upstairs to just to log in. So.
very cool. So Jeff is our Magid Shiur at RJC.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's wait a couple of minutes to see if anyone joins. In the meantime, we have the fireworks in the background.
Yeah, I'm my office in my home looks out over the valley of Kingsbridge, and so I actually can see the fireworks from my office. So at least I get the benefit of watching it, not just the sound.
Right. So we have like a very wise man who's doing it on our street on Johnson every single night at all kinds of hours up until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Where on Johnson is that?
You remember where the Bait used to be, the little house?
Yeah.
So I'm right across. I'm the same building where Bernie Horowitz lives.
Oh, okay, sure. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we're shopping and helping out and being friends with Lois Mann. So she's also in that building.
With who?
Lois Mann.
Oh yes, right. Where is Livia?
Well, I'm expecting fireworks on DAF 120, so.
All right.
You're not, or you are?
I am. The last 2 days.
It's fire,
Shalom Aleichem Shalashah. This last 2 days have each been jam-packed.
Yeah. So just so that you know, David, this is like a new thing for me to teaching DAF. It's just like
Awesome.
What?
I'm so impressed.
Why?
Why not? I mean, teaching anything is impressive.
Okay, I think it's actually the best way of learning.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Because it forces you to look into things that you probably wouldn't have otherwise.
Completely. That's exactly why I'm doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I understand everything, but
So I gather from the fact that both of you are doing it Monday through Friday at the RJC, it doesn't make sense for me to ask you whether you'd mind moving it from 7:30 to 8:30 because you're not involved.
No, so we actually at RJC we don't do it at 7:30.
No, I know. I'm saying the HIR one that I'm going to be doing the filling in for.
Oh yeah, no.
Like to 8:30. So.
You want to do it at 8:30 in the morning?
Yes.
People are working still.
I understand. So that's why I'm asking for permission. It's regularly at 7:30. But people, not everybody's going to the office now because people.
No, I mean, I'm not going to the office, but I work remotely. I start work at 8. So at RJC, we do it at 6:45 actually.
Oh gosh, I'm very much a night person. This is a way better a time for me than 6:45 in the morning. So.
Okay. Shavua tov, Livia.
She's on mute.
Yeah. Okay.
שבוע טוב ומבורך. שבוע טוב ומבורך.
Okay, Shavua tov. So Eli told me that he got to the Mishnah. We didn't get that far, right? We didn't get that far, so I'm going to pick up actually from where we got yesterday with RJC. So we're at the bottom of 119. Right, they've what is it, 2 lines, 3 lines from the bottom? All right,
Yeah.
so right,
Yonder before Bamarava.
right, we were okay, so we were at Devarim shebnei Adam mitkasim behen mikeshla she'enam beyadecha. So so what we talked about yesterday is a number of reasons as to that could have led to the destruction of the temple. And so, there were a number of things. We were talking about the fact that children were left to roam on the streets instead of being into schools learning Torah. We talked about the fact that people were not truthful. We were talking about the fact that no one had shame in terms of their behaviors if they were not behaving properly. So there were like all kinds of reason as to why. So we're getting now to the point where we're talking about so this is actually a metaphor. So it's talking about about people that are covering themselves with a garment, pretending that they actually don't know what the question is. So we're going to see where this is leading. And the stumbling block is under your hand. So what we're talking about here is someone who's actually asking another person, to teach him. So let's say, Reuven goes oh my gosh, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm going to close, just excuse me a second. I'm going to close my balcony because otherwise I'm not going to be able to hear myself. Sorry about that. P.S. For those of you who have listened to Rabbi Rosner, I hope that I'm just not going to be an exact parrot, but I listened to him and he inspired my preparation. So anyway, so we're talking about someone who goes, so Reuven goes to Shimon and he asked him, can you please teach me Torah? And he says, you know what? I don't know enough, so I'm not going to be teaching you. And in that sense, this is something that is actually truthful, because if you actually don't, one of the things is that you could potentially say, oh, sure, I'm going to teach you. And then you're going to ask me a question and I'm not going to be able to answer. And, I'm going to be embarrassed and I don't want to be embarrassed. So it's better for me to say, no, I don't know, than to say, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then whatever happens, happens. At the same time, one of the things that they could have said, because instead of saying, I can't teach you because I don't know anything, they could have said, you know what? I used to know, but now I don't know anymore because I forgot about it. So that's another, potential, answer. But then it kind of feels like you never knew anything at all. And, so that's not necessarily a good thing. So let's see. So, דברים שאין בני אדם אומרים, עומדים עליהם, עלה אין כן נבשלים בתוך, בהן ישנן תחת ידיך. So matters that people do not completely understand, so they make mistakes, they stumble over them, you know, and so this, like, you know, this guy, he's like actually like begging the other one, Ketzin hatiecha lanu, you know, please lead us, teach us, and it says, Yaseh bayom hahu lemor lo ehya chovesh vegomer. So he shall raise up an oath that day, saying, I will not be a ruler. So I will not be a ruler, meaning I will not teach you, because actually, you know, I don't want you to be under my, not my spell, but like, you know, to learn from me things that actually are not things that, you know, are worthy. En yaseh ela lishon beshavua, the word lashon, the word raise up. So it's like, it's the word itself is what is important, because it's actually parallel to what we hear, you know, in the 10th commandment. So it's like an oath. Vechen hu omer lo tisa et shem Hashem. You shall not, like, you know, say the name of Hashem in vain, and you shall lo ehye chovash, and that means, you know, I will not be a ruler. That means, you know, that you're not used to actually saying, you know, you're not actually used to being in the Bet Midrash and actually learn and, you know, over there. So you were not, like, you know, you were not diligent in your studies. So you don't want to be part of, like, you know, you don't want to mislead anyone. So I was not accustomed, like, you know, from that, I was not part of those that were actually, you know, in the Bet HaMidrash, you know, on a regular basis. One of the things actually, like, you know, when I mentioned the lo tisa, Rabbi Rosner said that the luchot, what's on the left is parallel to what's on the right. And for example, lo tignov and lo tisa are one across from each other. And then why? So lo tignov, you know, do not steal. And lo tisa, you know, don't lie. If you're going to steal, it's likely that you're going to end up lying to cover it up. So there's, like, you know, there's a lot of parallel in between, you know, there's parallels in between those two. So we see that it's the same thing in terms of, like, you know, that man who was asked to actually teach, and he said that he doesn't want, you know, he doesn't want to teach. It's better for him to say the truth rather than say, you know, than to pretend to do something that he actually does not know, which will actually lead him to lie about what he knows and what he doesn't know. Okay, we have Steve en lechem ve'en shlomam, and in my house there is no bread and no garment. She'en beyadi lo mikral velo mishnah velo gemara. So I don't have a chumash, I don't have a mishnah, I don't have a gemara. So, you know, I may look to you as if I could actually teach, but in reality, I really don't have anything, and I don't, you know, and I don't know. So what we derive from this is, well, actually that's further than that. So, okay, let me continue. Okay, umimai. So from what do you think that this is actually showing that these people are truthful and that they show their integrity? Dilma she'aniyatam. So maybe in another case, de'i amar lihu Gamrinan Amrulo Emailan, since one of them would have said, I am a learned person. And then, you know, if you say that you're a learned person, then people are going to ask you, so, you know, teach me. So he wouldn't have a choice but to actually be truthful about the fact that he doesn't know. Because again, if he pretends that he knows and then he has to answer questions that he doesn't know, then it's not going to lead him anywhere good. And so he could have said that he had, that he had learned once and that he had forgotten. So I said that before. Okay, Melo hiye chashuv. So what did he mean? I'm not like, I'm not the kind of person who was like, in the locked up in a bet midrash. Klal, what he meant is I don't know anything. I'm not knowledgeable whatsoever. So it's in this we understand lo kashya kan b'chirat Torah kan b'masa umatan. So what Rav Katina says was in regards to Torah matters, but what we're talking about here is actually in terms of what Rava was talking about before was in terms of business dealings. It was not about Torah. So, and that's another reason why the temple was actually destroyed, because people were not truthful in their dealings, in their business dealings. So now we have a new Mishnah. We're going back to actually Shabbat, and we are going back to what it is that we can actually save on Shabbat if your house is on fire. Matzilin tal mele kabarot. One may save from a house a basket full of loaves. We're going to read the Mishnah and then I'm going to go over it. Af al pi sheyesh bo me'at tahudot, even if it has enough in the basket for 100 meals. Now, in a previous Mishnah, we saw that on Shabbat, we're only allowed to save up until 3 meals per person. So here we're talking about, so let's keep this in the back of our mind, that we're talking about 100 meals, where before we talked about 3. Ve'aigul shel devela, and a round cake of pressed figs. Ve'chavit shel yain, and a barrel of wine. Even if there's more in all of those for more than 3 meals. Ve'omer le'acherit, and you may tell others, bo'u chatzilu lachem. You also can come and save for yourselves. Okay, very important, for yourselves. Ve'im ha'i pekehin, and if they were wise people, oshin imo cheshbon achar Shabbat. They will be making an account of what it was that they have done after Shabbat. So we're going to go over all of this so that we can understand what we're talking about. So, so that's, we're continuing. So, le'avan matzilin otan. So to where may we remove them? I set myself up here because I told Jeff that I would not do anything that had to do with eruvin, and smack in here. What are we talking about? Lechatzir me'overet. So to a courtyard. Okay, and this is a chatzir me'overet is actually a courtyard where you have like several houses that are together forming an eruv. Correct? Okay. Ben Besera Omer. So Ben Besera says, Av le'she'ena me'overet, even if the houses were not joined by an eruv. Okay, so he's like more lenient, and he says whether they're joined in the eruv or they're not joined in the eruv, it doesn't really make a difference. And then, so maybe we actually are going to stop here for a second. So we can take as many, we can take this basket that has 100 rolls, let's say, out of the house, and there's no problem whatsoever. And we can bring it into a semi-private courtyard where that belongs to a number of people, and there's no issue with this whatsoever. So it can be the bread, the bread basket, it can be wine, it can be like a cake, and it doesn't matter that it's for more than 3 meals, it's okay. Veshla motzi kol keli tashmisho. And you can also take all the utensils that you need to use for your meals. So you can take the plates and you can take the bowls and you can take glasses, you know, no issue whatsoever. You can take as many as you want. Oh, I missed something. Okay. So wait a second. So we're talking about the houses were not joined by an eruv. Velesham motzi kol kali tashmisho, and there you can take like all the utensils that you need for the meals. Okay. Velovesh kol ma sheyachol lilbosh, and you can wear whatever it is that you want to wear on top of you. Ve'otef kol ma sheyachol la'otef, and you can wrap yourself with all the garments that you can actually wrap yourself with to get out of the house. So what he's talking about is you can actually put as many clothes as you want, one on top of the other. You cannot carry them, but as long as you can wear them, if you can put 3 sweaters and 4 coats and 5 hats on top of each other, there's no problem. What we're going to see is actually what we're referring to, though, are regular weekday clothes. They are not Shabbat clothing. You cannot take 3 sets of Shabbat clothes. You can only take clothes that you would normally wear during the week, and we'll see that after. Rabbi Yossi Omer, so Rabbi Yossi says, Shemona asar kelim, you can take out up until 18 garments. And the fact that he mentions 18 garments, it doesn't mean 18 pieces of clothing. It means 18 different types of clothes. So we're going to have the list later. And basically, one of the things that he's going to say is that those clothes are not the same type of clothes. Vechozer ulovesh umotzi, and he can go back into the house and put on more clothes. So you go in the house, you put 6 sweaters, 3 hats, 4 pairs of pants. You go out, you drop them into the courtyard, you go back in the house, you start over again with whatever else is in your closet, and you continue taking it out as long as like you don't have any problem in terms of like, getting close to the fire. But you can do it as many times as you want, and you can take out as many clothes as you want. Ve'omer li'acharit ba'u, and you may tell others, come and save with me. Okay, so you can, whoever is passing by, you can tell and is like, sees that there's a fire in the house and is watching you. You can call them and you can say, you can come and you can do exactly the same thing that I'm doing. You can pick up my clothes and you can wear them and, take them out. So, So now, the Gemara says there's a contradiction in between the first Mishnah that we learned a couple of days ago, where we were talking about being able to only save 3 meals, and this, and this Mishnah that tells us that we can actually take up to 100 loaves. So what's the story here? The first part of the Mishnah, told us that we can only save 3 meals worth. Vehulo, and not more. So why is it that here we say that we can actually take up until 100 rolls, right? So Amar Rav Huna, lo kashya. Rav Huna says it's not difficult. Ke'an bava lechatzil. Here we're talking about one who comes to save, a basket of food from a burning house. Kan becha lekapel. Whereas over there in the previous Mishnah, we were talking about bundling together more than 1 basket. So that's the difference here, is that the 100 rolls were in 1 basket. In the previous Mishnah, each basket had a specific amount of food. You are not allowed to take 3 baskets. You can only take 1 basket. And it doesn't matter how many, how much food it has in that specific basket. Kali hatzil matzil et kulan. So if you come to save, the 1 basket, then you can save all the food that is in there. Ba lekapel eno mekapel elo mazon shelosh seudot. And if in the baskets, if you put together several baskets, then you can put it into one then you can have only for 3 meals. You cannot do more. And the reason that you cannot do that is because taking more than one basket actually is creating extra work, which obviously on Shabbat, we're trying to limit the amount of work that we are doing. And even if it's like, to save whatever it is that was in the fire, you're trying to do as minimal as possible. So another solution is being presented. Rav Abba Bar Zavda Amar Rav. So Rav Abba Bar Zavda said in the name of Rav, Ido ve'idi becha lekapel. So both this Mishnah and the previous Mishnah are talking about a case where one is coming to get things before removing them. Velo kashya, and therefore there is no difficulty. Kan leotot chatzer. So before we were talking about, in this Mishnah here, we're talking about removing the bundle of food to bring it into a private courtyard, okay? In that courtyard that belongs to us and those 3 other, houses that are in the courtyard. Okay. Where kan lechatzer acheret. In the other Mishnah, we were talking about taking the food into somebody else's courtyard. So something that was not part of your eruv. So that was not, that's why you were not allowed to take more than, the minimal amount that actually you were supposed to take. Bahi Rav Huna, Bere de Rav Yehoshua, Rav Huna, who's the son of Rav Yehoshua, asks, Peras talito. So if you actually put a sheet on the ground, ve'kipel ve'chineach, and you bundle the food and you place it on the sheet, ve'kipel ve'chineach, and then you bundle more food and you put it on the sheet again. So at this point of time, is this okay? What is the law? Can he take out this sheet, bundle it up and not tying it, but bundling it on top so that he can carry everything out? Can he do that or not? Beva lehatzil damai. So this is the same kind of thing that if you actually take food in a single container, or is it actually and that only has 3 meals or not? So, or is this like the case where you actually have more than one bundle that you put all into a sheet? So is it one that you put in the sheet, or is it several that you actually put in there? So, because technically he's not supposed to be taking out more than what he actually needs. And how much do we actually need to eat on Shabbat itself? On Shabbat itself, we only need 3 meals. So that's the extent to what you're supposed. So what does the Gemara answer? Mede Amar Rava. So from there, Rava deduces that Atiyat Rav Shivza le Rav Chisda Vedrash. Rav Shizbi actually misled Rav Chisda. And he actually expounded, the Baraita to say that you actually can put the bundle in the courtyard. We're referring to a previous Gemara that we talked about. I don't remember exactly when. Let's say last week, where we were talking about the wine that was dripping from a roof, and you were able to put it, actually, you know what? I am getting ahead of myself. No, actually I don't. Okay, so there was the wine was dripping from the roof, and you were allowed to put it in a keli that actually held enough for 3 meals. So what it's saying here is actually that was not correct. You could actually put it in a keli that was bigger than that. So let's see this. Yeah. Okay. So uvilvad shelo yavar velishehu bemechazik yoter mishalosh seudot. So provided that normally it held no more than 3 meals, then it was okay. But we're going to see that that's not correct. Shma mina, keva lehatzil damai. So from there, we learn that you can actually collect, the amount of food within one specific utensil, shapir demai, and it's okay to take more than 3 meals worth, as long as it's into the one utensil, the one keli. So the Gemara, feels that they have resolved the case, and now they're going to. Rava is going to ask. They actually are recording the question that was asked to Rava, and then they're going to say this. Amar le Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak le Rava. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said to Rava, Ma tehuta? What was the mistake? So Rava answered, Male, diktana, in that baraita, what did it teach? Uvilvad shelo yavo keli acher yekalglot. So it was not, you were not allowed to bring another utensil, another keli, to actually collect more of the wine. Keli acher yitzaref. Keli acher hu delo. So that means that another one you are not allowed. Aval biahu mane bame divha batzil. But in that specific keli, if it holds more than the 3, labriut, take as much as you want. You can actually, collect it. So now we're going back to the next part of the Mishnah. We're talking about, the press figs. Ve'igul shel divle vechule. So come and save for yourselves. What does it mean, come and save for yourselves? So there's 2 things. There's when the owner of the house that is catching fire is telling people, come to take for yourselves, basically what he's saying is that he's renouncing ownership. And so whatever is in the house, you can take, and it's not his anymore. So in that situation, then what can happen? The people that are actually picking up the things that are in the house can potentially go to him after Shabbat and say, hey, we've actually done all of this. We've done all the work. We took everything out for you. So, we want to be paid for our work. So the fact that it's ownerless, let me see. I'm going back to my notes. I apologize. This is a concept actually that I did not know. So this is good for me because I learned something new. So hefker cannot be done on Shabbat technically. And there are 2 questions that you ask. What is the mechanism and what is being achieved? So these are the questions that you ask when you talk about hefker. So it's so what are you removing from the other person, and who does it actually belong to? Does it belong to the tzibur or does it belong to somebody else? So if you actually can put it in the courtyard, then it's your own. And if you take it out, no, wait a second. Yes. So if you take the bundle and you put it in the courtyard that is the adjacent courtyard that belongs to everyone, you can. If you're taking to a courtyard that is another one that is beyond that, then you are not allowed to do that. So cheshbon mai avidete. So in terms of the wages, the reckoning of the wages. So what are we talking about here? Mehavkera kezadvro. So they acquired the food basically that didn't belong to anyone. So if it didn't belong to anyone, then they should be allowed to take it. And there's no reason why it would not be allowed. Rav Chizda, Amar Rav Chizda, Mada Chasidut Sheno shenokan. So we're talking now the people who are going to actually go and ask to be paid for the services that they have done. It really depends on how frum they are, basically. Amar Rava, Chaside Agera de Shavta Shekere. So do actually pious people get paid for work that they actually have done on Shabbat? Technically, you're not supposed to work on Shabbat. So why would you actually ask to be paid? Elu Amar Rava. Instead, Rava said, Hava beri shemaim askinan. We're dealing with someone who's really like, has yirat shemaim, that is like, that fears heaven. Ve'lo noach le dilrachane me'acherim. And so, he does not like that for him to benefit from others. So he knows, he knows what the rules are, and he doesn't want to take advantage. At the same time, he doesn't want, he worked, so why shouldn't he be compensated? And this is why the Mishnah is really saying, Ve'im hayu bekehun, and if they are bekehin, and if they are wise, deyadea udeachi ganva lo shover Shabbat hu. So if they know what the situation is, and it's not really considered like wages that are Shabbat wages. And that's like something that is coming from outside of this. This is coming from, if I remember correctly, from the Mishnah Berurah. So don't ask me the question. I actually am not knowledgeable enough in that. Osin amor cheshbon leachar Shabbat. So they're going to make like they're going to make the account after Shabbat. And here, so we can, we're referring to removing these items. So, and he told these people, come and save things for me, with me. So there's a difference like in between what he says here, save things.
I'm gonna have to jump in sometime. So just in the previous case, you might have said it just to punch it home. Had they stipulated before they did the work, that's 1,000% usher, and like no one would give them praise. But here, they already saved all the pastrami sandwiches. It's just after Shabbos, they can say, hey, I can keep the pastrami sandwiches, they're $10 a piece, or you could give me a quarter per piece for saving them. So it was a cheshbon after the fact, and cheshbon after the fact is not, I don't want to say not usher, but it's certainly not terrible like doing the cheshbon before the fact, which is like—
it doesn't have as much value. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so there were two things. There were come and save for yourselves, and there was come and save things with me. So come and save things for yourselves. That's what we just discussed. That's with that's with the people who came and who took the food out, and like Jeff was saying, at the end of the day, they're gonna say either I'm keeping it all, or if I'm not keeping it all, I'm selling it back to you for whatever it is that the value, or like a quarter of the value is, whatever it is. Here, we're talking about the clothes, and he says, come and save things with me. So that's very different. Okay, so my shena'acha, so what's different? Diktani lachem, what the Mishnah teaches here is, so come and save for yourself. Umay shena'acha, it's like the case of others, to say, he's telling others to save his own clothes. Okay, diktane ami, so it says, come save with me. So amri gabe mezonot ktana lachem. In the case of the food, it says, come and save for yourself. So that's that's the main difference. Mishum deloka ave ela mazon shelosha seudot, because you can't save more than, for him, he can't save more than 3 meals for himself. He can't take anything else. So, it's better for him to let other people come and get the food. And, but the clothes is a different story. So why shouldn't get, other people's help? Aval gabe levushem ktane ami. In the case of the clothes, the Mishnah teaches that, come and say with me, mishum dektane le chule yomar. Because the clothes, he can change 20 times a day if he wants to. Why should he wear only one outfit? You wear one outfit to go to shul and you come back and you wear clothes that are a little bit looser, and then you're going to change again for the meal, and so on and so forth. So there's no reason why he doesn't need more than one set of clothes. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught in the Baraita regarding saving the clothes from the fire. Lovesh motze ufilshet. One may put on clothes, take them out, and put them on again. So that's what I was saying. The afilu kol hayom kulo, and they can do this the entire day. Devaro Rabbi Meir. That's the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi Omer. So Rabbi Yossi says, Shmona asar kelim. So Rabbi Yossi says you can only put on 18 pieces of clothes. So 18 garments, not pieces of clothes. So he's going to describe all of these clothes that we have it's not that we don't have any idea what they are, but they're not really similar to what it is that we're wearing nowadays. And in the commentary that I read, it says that these clothes actually were not, each had a very specific you wore them for a very specific reason, and it's they covered a specific part of your body or whatever it was, but they're not one instead of the other, and they're not and they can't be one on top of the other complementing each other, so you can't exchange them. Basically, they each have a very specific reason for being. So what are those 18? Mektoren on keli u finra, so a cloak, an outer coat, and an outer belt. Okay, so they had we're gonna see after that they also had a belt that could for their pants or for their for whatever it was. Kalbus shel pishtan vechaluk, a linen doublet, a tunic, ve'apiliot, a robe, umeaforet, a kerchief to wrap your head, ushne tefrakin, 2 leg bands, maybe leg warmers, ushne minalain, 2 shoes, ushne anpileot, 2 socks. Oh, that's good. That we get one for each foot. Ushne pargo, 2 gaiters, ahagor she bamat gav, the belt on his loins, uchove she berosho, and the hat on his head, vesoder she batsavero, and a scarf around his neck. So there's explanation for each of the various clothes. So Rabbi Yossi says you can only take those specific 18. Maybe more than one of these 18s, but those specific 18s. While Rabbi Meir said, take whatever it is that you want, whenever it is that you want. We're okay with that? Okay, so we have a new Mishnah. So before we were talking about what it was that we could actually take out is a rescue from the house, so when there is a fire on Shabbat. Now we're going to talk about how it is that we can actually try and prevent the fire from spreading. So it's not really to extinguish the fire, but it's to try and make it such that it doesn't catches on any further. So Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas Omer. Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas says, Porsin od shel gede, you can spread a kid's hide al gabe shida teva u migdal shehavu behen et haor. So over a carriage or a trunk or a closet that has caught fire. So what we're, let me read it first. Okay, mipnei shehu meharech, because the hide can actually, like, it's going to slightly burn, but not burn. It's going to, what's the word? I mean, singe, but it's not going to completely burn. ועושין מחיצה בכל הכלים, בין מלאים, בין דיקנים. And you can make like a mechitza, a partition, you know, in the path of the fire. So you have the fire, and then what you do is, like, you know, around the fire, or to block the fire, you kind of make, like, you know, a mechitza. So and what you do is you use all kinds of vessels, and you fill them, you can fill them with water, or you can leave them empty. בשביל שלא תעבור הדליקה, so that the fire will not be able to go over those kelim. So it makes, like, you know, it makes like kind of like, you know, a barrier. רבי יוסי אוסר בכלי הרס חדשים מלאים מים. So Rabbi Yossi says that you're not allowed to use brand new earthenwares that are filled with water. Why? Because they're not going to be able to actually withstand the fire. לא שאין יכולים לקבל את האור. והן מתקבהין ומכבין את ההדלקה. But what's going to happen is they're going to actually explode, and by exploding, the water is going to go all over the place, and it's going to extinguish the fire. And the goal here is not to extinguish the fire, which is actually asur on Shabbat. The goal is to stop the fire from spreading.
It would be like a sikresha, yes?
Like a what?
It was inevitable that this firewall would
Yeah.
they would burst, and they would the water would pour and would extinguish the
Right.
fire. You just want to do a firewall, but not a
Right.
sikresha.
Exactly. That's what we're trying to do here. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav. So Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, Talit she'avu ba ba'ur mitzad echad. So if you put a cloak, like, you know, a cloak, a sheet, whatever, on which, like, the fire has caught on, like, one side, and notnin alea mayim mitzad acher. And what you do is you put water on the other side. Okay, so you have, like, the cloak, you have, like, you have the fire on one side, you put the water on the other side. Okay, ve'im katva katva. So if the fire gets extinguished, it gets extinguished. You didn't do anything wrong. Why? Because you put it on the other side. You did not put it dafka on the side where the fire was. Okay, so Rav Yehuda is ruling, so is question. Metive. So they challenge him. Talit she'achaz ba ahur mitzad echad. So a cloak in which a fire has taken on hold on one side. Pishta umechakese ba. One may unfold it. So you have, like, you know, you have this, let's say, sheet, cloak, whatever it is, and it was folded, and now you completely unfold it, right? And you cover yourself with it, even though there's, like, one piece that actually has caught fire. Ve'im katva, katva. And if the fire is extinguished, then it's extinguished, because the fact that you have actually unfolded it, it possibly has, like, made it such that the fire, you know, has gone out. Vechen sefer Torah she'achaz bo ahud, and the same thing with, like, a Torah. So you have a Torah that actually has caught fire on one side. Poshto vekore bo ve'im kava kava. And if you unroll it and you read it, you know, if it's extinguished, it's extinguished. So this is actually, it's a metaphor. We're not talking about actually opening the Torah and reading it. We're actually not talking about, you know, opening the cloak and putting it on us. We're talking about the fact that these are, like, you know, everyday kind of things that we're doing. And if it so happens that the water is touching the other side, then so be it. It's not like, you know, you haven't done anything wrong. Okay, so one of the things that we're talking about here is when we were talking about the hide we're going back to the hide now. So you have a chest of drawers and it has caught fire, and you're going to put a hide on top of it. And what kind of a hide is it? So we're talking about, like, you know, a hide from an animal. But you know, what is there a specific kind of hide, and which kind is allowed, which kind is not allowed? Hu de'amar Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas. So Rav Yehuda, the ruling is like Rav Shimon ben Nanas, and actually he's the Tana of this Mishnah. Amra de'amar Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas. One could say that one may cover the object with a kid's hide, mipnei shehu mecharer, because it singes and it prevents the fire from, like, you know, spreading further. Geram kibui mi amar. But, you know, is it actually allowed to cause the extinguishment of the fire? Just like Rav Yehuda said, in the name of, like, you know, Rav. So that kid's hide is something that still has oils in it. So it's slightly wet. And the fact that it has oils in it, it's dripping. And so because it's dripping, it's actually going to extinguish the fire. Because technically, you're not allowed to carry a hide on Shabbat, if I read correctly, unless it has meat in it. So meat attached to it. So this is not something that you're actually going to go around with. But, like, you know, a hide that actually still is, like, wet from, like, you know, it's because it has been treated, then you can actually use this. All right. Okay. And Migdeta Nasifa, so he permits it. Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas permits it. And the end of the Mishnah, it says, Rabbi Yossi Asur bilvad cheres hadashim meleim mimayim. So Rabbi Yossi, he does not allow to make the partition with a new earthenware, like, you know, filled with water. We said that. She'enan yecholim lekabel et haor ve'et mitkebein umevin et adelaka. So they cannot actually stand the fire. They're going, as we said, they're going to actually burst, and when they burst, they're going to extinguish the fire. So it's a secondary action. So we don't want this to have this to happen. But because Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas is actually disputing Rabbi Yossi, then we can say that he actually allows to use the new earthenware to be used with water. So they always at each other's throat, and they're always saying, like, things that are, like, you know, different from each other. So it's like you really have to pay attention to figure out who is saying what and when and where and about what. And it's not always easy. So you know what? I think we're going to stop here because it's already late. And there's a lot more material. Unless you guys want to continue, it's up to you. Yes, no, maybe.
You're the teacher, you decide, you're in charge.
Okay, so let's do 5 more minutes.
It's a hierarchy, it's not...
No, that's not the way it is.
You really only started at 9:45, so if you want to go another 5-10 minutes, it's fine with me.
Actually, okay, fine, great. Okay, so we're now going to be talking about a lamp. Okay, so Tanu Rabanan, Ner she'al gabe tavla. So if there's a lamp that's on top of a board, okay, and you want to move the lamp, okay, minha et tavla vehi nofelet. So you can actually shake the board, and the lamp may fall down, okay. So ve'im katva katva, and if the lamp, you know, gets extinguished, then it gets extinguished. There's nothing, like, you know, that we worry about in this case. Amra Deve Rabbi Yanav. So those that were in Rabbi Yanav's school said, Lo shanu ela b'shocheach. You can actually shake off the lamp and you can carry the board. If you have forgotten that the lamp was on the board, if you leave the lamp on the board before Shabbat, okay, and then you forgot about that, then you can shake out the board. There's no problem with it. Aval,
Meaning if you didn't mean to leave it on for Shabbos, if you left it on purpose on Shabbos, the point isn't that you forgot about it after you put it on, but you put it on with the thought that you were going to take it off, and then it got stuck on. And then you didn't take it off after.
You didn't mean to.
You didn't mean for it to be on Shabbat.
Correct. Thank you for clarifying. Aval, b'maniya na'aseh besis ledavar asur. But if you intentionally leave the lamp on the board, then it's muktzah. You can't touch it anymore. So that's exactly what you were saying. If you left it on and you forgot about it. It's not that you really wanted to put it on, but it so happens that you put it on and you forgot that, and it wasn't meant for Shabbat purposes, then it's fine. But if you dafka put it on because it's your Shabbat lamp, and now all of a sudden you decide that, you want to move it, then you can't. Tana, it was taught in the Baraita, ner shechore adelet, and if the lamp was standing behind a door, poteach venohel kedarbo, so you can open and shut the door the way that you normally would. Ve'im katva, katva. And if the lamp gets extinguished, then it gets extinguished. Of course, this is not something that we have any issues with, nowadays, because our lamps are slightly different. But back then, that's what it was. It was it was a flame. So that's what was important. Now, one of the things that actually Tosafot says is that it cannot be a lamp where there was oil in it. Because if there was oil in it and you shake it, then the oil is going to spill. And if it spilled, then that's kivui. So you cannot do that. So we have to, so that's a distinction. It cannot be a lamp that has any kind of oil in it. Leyat ala Rav. So the Gemara is talking now about Rav's reaction to this whole thing. Amar le Ravina le Rav Acha bere bederava. So Ravina says to Rav Acha, the son of Rava, ve Amri le Rav Acha beri ve Rava le Rav Ashi. And some say that it was actually Rav Acha, the son of Rava, who said this to Rav Ashi. My tama leait ele Rav. Why is it that Rav actually went against this ruling? Ilma mishum de Rav Tavar le berabi Yehuda. So if you say that it's because Rav actually is in agreement with Rav Yehuda, which says that because it was not something that you intended to do, then it's prohibited. V'tanak tane le de Rabbi Shimon, where the Tana that actually taught this Baraita actually is in accordance with Rabbi Shimon, who says that if it's actually not intended, then it's okay. So how is this possible? Mishum davar savar le ke Rabbi Yehuda. Just because the fact that Rav is agrees with Rabbi Yehuda, kol tetane kerish ke Rabbi Shimon melat lait le. Is that a reason for him to actually go against anyone who teaches this Baraita, the way that Rabbi Shimon understands it? So the Gemara says, Amar le, he said to him, Beha afilu Rabbi Shimon modeh. In this case, Even Rabbi Shimon says that you should not really open and close the doors. Deha Abaye, de Amre, Taryahu. Because Abaye and Rava, both of them said, Mode Rabbi Shimon, Befifsik, Resha Velo Yamut. Says that you are actually liable when it is something that you cannot avoid.
Rashi throws in that it was windy, so clearly you open the door, there goes the candle. It's inevitable. So even Rabbi Shimon would agree with Rabbi Yehuda.
Okay.
And just to clarify, the case with that Tosfos is talking about was the case with the board, not the door.
Yes,
Case
no,
with
it was
the
not the door.
board.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear enough. I went back and I wasn't clear enough. Yes, it absolutely was about the lamp.
Because they're both lamps.
They're both lamps. Yes, it was, but one was like on the board and one was behind the door.
On the board and one is behind the door.
One is behind the door. Right, exactly.
But I think the case with the door could happen today with people who put their Hanukkah lamps on the landing,
sure.
on their landing.
Yeah.
It could happen.
Right. Amar Rav Yehuda, poteach Adam delet mineged medura b'Shabbat. So Rav Yehuda says, a person that actually opens a door that is across from a hearth fire. So, and like, there's like wind blowing through the door. So what happens here? Leyat ale Abaye. Abaye says, nah, I'm not, I don't agree with this. B'mai askinan. So which case is it that we're talking about here? Ilima beruach metzuya. So if you say that it's a regular kind of like wind, like, that is blowing outdoors, okay, it's not a tornado. My tama deman de asar. Why is it that it's not allowed? Why is it that Abaye, says that it's forbidden to open the door? Because this is like, if it's an everyday kind of wind, then they're used to it, and it's, they should place like their fires and their lamps and wherever it is in places where that's not a problem. The earth is like in the place where it is, so it's not going to move. And they open the door on a regular basis. Then all of a sudden, Abaye says that he doesn't agree with this. So, we're not dealing with a regular wind. We are dealing with like an incredibly forceful wind here. What is the reasoning for one that is actually, I'm sorry, I went back to the other.
Saying that both opinions have a problem. Both opinions have a problem. It doesn't make sense. Neither of these opinions make sense. According to the first opinion, it doesn't make sense if we're dealing with an ordinary wind, because according to Abaye, it doesn't make sense if we're dealing with an ordinary wind. Why is he going to stop you from opening it? And Rabbi Yehuda, if it's an unordinary wind, how could he be allowing it?
Right. So yeah, one way or another, it doesn't make any kind of sense. If we're dealing with a case of a regular wind, an ordinary wind, masavar gazrinan, Abaye would say that actually there's a prohibition in this case, because someone shouldn't think that it's allowed to open the door even when there's a strong wind. So it's like, it's the case where you're trying to avoid doing something simple so that you can actually avoid a further situation that is potentially worse. Umi savarlo gazrinan, and Rav Yehuda says that no, you're not like, we're not actually going to prohibit this. So I'm going to stop here. But yes,
got two dots.
But they actually, like, one says that it's allowed, the other one says that it's not allowed, and it's like, it's a machloket, because actually, it's like it's going to be gram kivud. So that's like, that's the whole thing. is that whether it's intentional or not, at the end of the day, it's going to extinguish the fire, and that's not allowed. So.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, while I have you on the line, you're part of the HIR Daf Yomi every day, right?
Yes.
Would you be willing to do it from 8:30 to 9:30 on Monday through Friday for this week instead of 7:30 to 8:30?
For me, it's okay. Please.
Okay. All right, so we'll ask tomorrow as well, and we'll see.
As well.
Okay.
Excuse me? What did you hear?
We'll ask tomorrow because I'm going to, God willing, I'm going to teach it this week, and so, but I
So
want to make sure that it's.
ask the other students as well.
Yeah, I will ask others.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Good to see you, Jeff. Good to see you, Olivia.
Thank you.
All right, awesome.
Very pleasant, very énergétique.
Shabbat tov.
Shavua tov.
Mevorach.
Anyway, I said I did.